about Smash Bros. 6, and one character in particular, Jigglypuff. What's so great about Jigglypuff? Well, Jigglypuff has been in every Super Smash Bros. Game since the beginning, and we'll be discussing the possibility that Nintendo might get rid of Jigglypuff because Sakurai will not be developing Super Smash Bros. Anymore. We'll be going over a couple of scenarios for Super Smash Bros. 6, considering the fact that Jigglypuff has received some new relevance in a new form as well. So Jigglypuff was almost cut from Super Smash Bros. Brawl and Melee, if you do not remember. But yeah, basically Sakurai was planning on cutting Jigglypuff from Brawl and Melee because Melee had a rush development, so that was understandable. But Brawl, Sakurai almost cut Jigglypuff, and basically it's Jigglypuff, Toon Link, and Wolf were all last-minute additions to the Super Smash Bros. Series, or Super Smash Bros. Brawl. That's why they weren't in the Subspace Emissary as well. So we have Smash Bros. Roster cuts here. It says, character cuts are always a touchy subject in Super Smash Bros. Okay. Characters cut from Brawl. Mewtwo, blah blah blah. Yeah. No one was cut from Ultimate, obviously, because they want to put every character as them. But Sakurai is not in the creative, is retired. He can't make Smash Bros. Anymore, and because he doesn't want to make anymore. Okay. The thing with Pokemon, okay, is that Pokemon has so many characters. There's so many Pokemon, okay? And the newest Pokemon games, if we don't get any new Pokemon games before the next Smash Bros. Game, they're likely going to pull Pokemon from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, okay? There is a Pokemon that exists in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet that resembles Jigglypuff to such a degree that they could just replace Jigglypuff or Screamtail. So Screamtail is the new Paradox form, if you did not know, of Jigglypuff that exists in the game. And why is this a possibility? Simply because Nintendo always wants to promote the newest games. Okay, this is the first possibility. And this is actually a bit likely possibility than people will realize is Screamtail being cut in favor of Jigglypuff. Screamtail is a very similar typing to Jigglypuff and also to represent the newer Pokemon games as well. And if Pokemon Scarlet Violet is the newest Pokemon game by the Smash 6's release, Screamtail could probably just replace Jigglypuff because, hey, the Paradox Pokemon are pretty cool and unique, and it's one of the big plot points of the game. But also, you could just add in Miraidon and keep Jigglypuff, because of how great Miraidon is. But then you'd also have to add in Koraidon. That would be a pretty mess. We could just add Psychoizer too, so you don't have to worry about that bullcrap anymore. But also, the legendaries of Pokemon Scarlet Violet would also be a pretty fitting roster spot. And of course, the legendaries, and of course, Meowscarada as well. So you can finally have the Grass, Fire, Water trio that fans have been begging for. As of course, Nintendo does not cut Incineroar, but again, Salazar can still be in the game as Pokemon trainer, so we can have all three of those characters in the game. Another most likely thing is that Jigglypuff stays in the game and they make Screamtail a skin. Considering that Jigglypuff and Screamtail look very similar, Jigglypuff and Screamtail can basically be one character, basically similar to the Kooparines as well. And this would be a nice little nod to the people who like Screamtail, and because Screamtail is very similar to Jigglypuff in design, this would probably work perfectly because they have this character and Pokemon's gonna fight. Another possibility, and there's another pretty probable, if they keep Echo Fighters in the game, they could just easily just have both Jigglypuff and Screamtail as characters in the game. But then, Scarlet and Violet is not the newest game. Pokemon Gen 10 comes out, which means Generation 8 and 9 will not be represented at all in Pokemon, similar to how Gen 3 and 5 don't have any playable characters whatsoever. This is pretty unlikely, but pretty likely at the same time. For example, Gen 3 was completely skipped in favor of Gen 4 Lucario, despite there being so many iconic Gen 3 Pokemon, but none of them made it into the final roster of Super Smash Bros. Same thing with Gen 5. Gen 5 has 0 representatives in favor of Greninja, which Greninja is one of the most popular Pokemon of all time. And I even think if they did include a Gen 5 Pokemon like Zoroark or something, being Greninja will have eventually been added to the game, but simply due to fans demanding Greninja to be added to the game. Okay. Yeah, if Greninja was never added in Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS, I think there would have been a massive amount of fans demanding Greninja to be in the game, simply because of how Nintendo's pushing Greninja, and Sakurai said, "Oh, we're not gonna put this Pokemon in the game. We'll put Zoroark because Gen 5, no, Gen 5, as well." But I think Greninja eventually made it into Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and Sakurai basically, regretted his decision of not putting Greninja in Super Smash Bros. Simply because of how popular Greninja is, and people have been spamming the Fighters Battle to add Greninja in Super Smash Bros. That would basically they say, okay, here's Greninja, he's Smash Bros. Now. So Greninja probably would have been in Smash Bros. either way, simply because, Greninja is the type of Pokemon popular and powered Charizard, Mewtwo, and Pikachu, okay? A Pokemon that popular is eventually going to be in the game. Say if it were Lucario. If they put a Gen 3 Pokemon in the game, people have been demanding for Lucario to be included in Pokemon as well. So, now we're getting back to Jigglypuff. Another huge possibility is no Jigglypuff. This is most likely if Gen 10 comes out before the next Smash Bros. Game, which is a huge possibility, considering that Sakurai does not have any, has retired. Nintendo is cutting Jigglypuff simply because they want to cut characters, and they'll look at the Pokemon polls and stuff and say, "Oh, Jigglypuff isn't too popular anymore. Let's cut Jigglypuff from Super Smash Bros. Because even though Jigglypuff has been in every Super Smash Bros. Game, as well, but Jigglypuff has been cut almost twice, okay? And, as well, also, Jigglypuff almost got cut from Melee as well, and almost got cut from Brawl. Which means, if Nintendo had a decision, they would cut Jigglypuff in favor of more unique Pokemon, or Pokemon that would represent the series better than having too many generations one Pokemon. As well, maybe not representing Gen 3, but maybe having a Pokemon that represents Gen 5 or the Gen 5 remakes, and of course, having Pokemon representing the newest generation of Pokemon as well. This would make a lot of sense, considering the fact that, Pokemon is such a big series in Nintendo as well. So do you think that Jigglypuff has any possibility of ever being cut from Super Smash Bros? Or do you think that Nintendo will just eventually cut Jigglypuff, either replace Jigglypuff with Screamtail, the paradox form of Jigglypuff, or obviously just get rid of Jigglypuff altogether? I think Jigglypuff's chances have definitely improved to stay in Super Smash Bros. For Smash Bros. 6, simply because Game Freak gave Jigglypuff the relevancy boost that Jigglypuff so desperately needs in the Pokemon series. I think the Fairy typing kind of saved Jigglypuff from being almost cut from Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS again, and maybe Screamtail simply just existing as a Pokemon could save Jigglypuff yet again. But yep, that is it about Jigglypuff. So yeah, goodbye.